Well, thank you for those kind remarks, Jessica. I remember the first time we met, you come to my office and you told me that your mentor and my mentor sent you in. And it was a great relationship, and I appreciate those remarks. Even finding out about Lima the llama from Lima. So we very much appreciate that. And keep thinking of you as Senator Oldslager, because that's where we served in the legislature together first. Met in college all those years. Relationship, in and out, our connections, and you've kind of made my life flash before my eyes here with some of the things that I had forgotten. So thank you both for those kind words. This legislative session, as it comes to a close, also brings to close my service in the legislature. A wise philosopher once said that life can only be understood backwards, but it has to be lived forward. I was 34 when I entered the state Senate with a wonderful, supportive wife, Libby, who some of you have known, because she's taken upon herself to bake goods for our caucus and other meetings, and has really appreciated the very kind words that all of you have said. Her health had sort of gotten in the way in the last year or so. At that time, I also had two very young children who now have children of their own. Her granddaughter is getting her driver's license, and also a 2-year-old grandson. Those were very formative years for me, helping to decide public policy, crafting good legislation, creating solutions to public problems, serving the best interests of the constituents, building friendships, and helping to create a better future for all Ohioans. 16 years after I entered the Senate in 2000, the service ended because of the recently enacted term limits, and I had no expectations of returning to the legislature at that time. I went back home to Lima and Allen County, stayed busy and productive in a number of different ways. I got concerned about how courts were misinterpreting the law that we spent years enacting, and decided to embark upon a journey in the judiciary, first as a Court of Appeals judge and then a term on the Ohio Supreme Court. When service in the judiciary ended a decade later, the pull of returning to the legislature and the opportunity to serve constituents, to change the law for the positive, was a very powerful pull. And I succeeded my term-limited state legislature at that time, whose name was Matt Huffman. In July 2020, here in the legislature, as you all know, things took a very unexpected turn, and suddenly I was Speaker of the House. The day I became Speaker, I pledged to emulate those individuals who are honored by this text inscribed on the west wall of the Thomas J. Moyer Ohio Judicial Center. They raised the standard to which the wise and the honest could repair. In the 2.5 years since then, I've tried my very best to live up to that commitment every day. Moreover, not a day has passed when the responsibility of being your Speaker, the Speaker of this House, has not weighed heavily on me. So sometimes to get a break from that, people call you Speaker this, Speaker that, Speaker everything else. I like to go out and work in my yard, tend to the roses, the fruit trees. And this spring, a bird appeared that I hadn't heard before. And this bird had a very annoying chirp. Speaker, Speaker, Speaker. Honestly, that's what the bird had said. It's like I can't even get out of my own backyard. So I don't know if that bird migrates south in the winter, but I hope it can't find its way back. Nevertheless, even though it has been a great responsibility, I'm grateful for having had the opportunity to lead this great people's house. And although we experienced more than a normal share of unusual challenges in this time period, which many of you have mentioned, we have accomplished much even against these headwinds. And I've cherished the opportunity to come to know each and every one of you that I've served with. Although we may not always have agreement on matters of policy or procedure, I hope that our shared experiences here will enhance and sustain personal relationships in the years to come. I feel extraordinarily blessed to have been able to serve in so many capacities in our state's great design for liberty. What an enormous privilege it's been to at any one time be only one of 132 people out of our state of 11 million people to be entrusted with the responsibility to be the maker of our state laws. We never do these things alone. Libby and my boys were great supporters. We could tell lots of stories about riding in the parade and the wonderful things the kid would say to the people as we went by, and the sacrifices that my wife made so that I could have a career here. My best advisor, my most ardent supporter, the one who could tell me when I'm going off track, the one who could give me a little kick when I needed to do something else. She has just been the love of my life, and I could never have done this without her support. And then I recall in 8th grade class, my eighth grade history teacher, Mrs. Huffman, one day said, "You appear to have an interest in government and politics. Have you ever thought about going into a career in public service?" I was a kid who grew up on a farm. I didn't know a farm kid could do that. She's the one that planted the seed. That took root and grew. And I was so gratified that when I was sworn into the Supreme Court, she was in a nursing home, and we were able to connect the live stream from the Supreme Court as I was sworn into the nursing home so she could watch her student get sworn in to the state's highest court. I was recently asked about some of the memorable things experiences that happened while I served in the legislature and the judiciary. So I won't take a long time, but let me just recount some of those. My first year in the legislature, there was a run on a savings and loan in southwestern Ohio called Home State Savings Bank. And thousands of depositors were locked out of their savings, and there was a run on savings and loans all over the state. The governor closed the savings and loan, and the throngs of depositors came to the legislature to solve their issue, which we eventually did. That was a very interesting experience. The successful reform of the state's workers' compensation system, which was dangerously dysfunctional and expensive in the late 80s and the early 90s. The restoration of the Civil War era State House into this gorgeous facility that it is today. It was run down, poorly maintained government building, and now it is once again a beautiful symbol of the state of Ohio. And Senator Richard Finan, Senate President, was the spark plug that caused that to happen. Decision in the DeRolf school funding case, ruling the state school funding system unconstitutional and all the struggle it took to try to figure out a way of getting the system restored. Serving on the Ohio Supreme Court with Chief Justice Thomas J. Moyer, Ohio's great Chief Justice, and the naming of the Ohio Judicial Center in his honor. Of course, who can forget the COVID-19 pandemic with its widespread impact on every aspect of lives and laws, including our work here in the legislature, which unfortunately drove members apart and drove the caucuses apart, and the effects of which are still playing out. And decades after the DeFrost decision, a new school funding framework. Thank you, everyone who voted for that, which hopefully will survive in succeeding General Assemblies that will sustain and retain it. And the leaders of both chambers of the Ohio Legislature, the House and the Senate, being from Allen County. Who could ever have predicted? So I just want to thank a few other folks for the work that they do. To my staff, and all of the staff here in the House. To Sheila Wilimowski-Boehner, who met her husband here working for me. Dorothy Hildebrand, Will Hinman, who came back from a better paying job at the Department of Transportation when I became Speaker. Ben Check and Doran Mason. To our Chief of Staff, Christine Morrison, who has done a double and triple job these last 2.5 years. Our legal team, Paul, Josh, Heather, and Julia. Our policy advisors, RJ and John. Our Blake, our budget chief, Springhetti, who went a very long time without much sleep as he was redrawing and again redrawing and then drawing once more, and about 6 times our state legislative districts. Our communication team, Dwight, Sam, Aaron, and Emily, we kept them busy, and I certainly appreciated their hard work. To the Legislative Service Commission, with all the lawyer bills you have done for these 4 General Assemblies, we have really kept them busy, and you have really kept them busy as well. To the Sergeant at Arms that keep us safe, to the Clerk's Office that have kept all of this running, Brad, Mary Kate, Allie, Ron, Alex, Zen, to the IT staff who had to do a little extra duty here tonight, that I think has a special place in heaven when things don't work and they get them working. Thank you all for the work that you've done here in the People's House. And to my leadership team, we were all sort of thrown into this, and I believe we all tried in good faith to do what is best for all the members in the People's House, and thank you for your tireless work. And thanks to all of you who have entrusted me to be your speaker. The legislature is the very embodiment of representative democracy. The assembling here of elected officials, of people from all over the state of Ohio. Just think of the various diverse areas we represent and the views of our constituents. We come here together, offering a multitude of different experiences, ideas, and expectations, and together shaping the laws that make the policies to enhance the common good. We are not the first to do so, and we stand on the shoulders of others who have served before us. And hopefully, we have these past years built upon, added to, and improved what they worked so hard to accomplish upon the foundation that had been laid for them. I am grateful for the years that the voters have given me the opportunity to labor in this meadow of democracy. And when we are concerned about where we're going in the future, I just would paraphrase a historian, a quote that I came across, or an idea that I came across, that American democracy is not perfect, but it is never finished. Given time, representative democracy will find a way forward. And that is why I am optimistic about the future we all share as Ohioans and Americans. And again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve, for the people who have entrusted their faith in me from the districts that I represented. And I wish you all Godspeed, whether you're returning to this legislature or you're off to another chapter in your life. Thank you very much. Thank you, please. Thank you.